All right, everyone. Well, good evening. My name is Tammy Gibson, and welcome to Black Race Matter. I go by the name Sankofa Travel Her, and for the past 10 years, I've traveled all over the world locating African American historical sites and even cemeteries. And the reason why I want to do this was because throughout my travels, I've been to over 1,000 graves, 100 cemeteries, and I see the good of African American cemeteries, but also I see where our ancestors and cemeteries are neglected. I've seen where there's mattresses as used as garbage, the grass up to the kneecaps, vandalism. I see people that walk their dogs and their dogs defecate on the sacred grounds. And so and also commercial development that are put on cemetery burials. And so I decided to start this year, 2022, with Black Race Matter. And I'm so excited to have my first guest, Barnard Sims. Welcome, Barnard. Thank you so much for being my first guest on Black Race Matter.
Oh, what an honor. Thank you for having me. I just admire all the work that you do in honoring our legacy. And, I had to, I'm just honored to be the first person on your show.
And you were the first person I thought of when I started this. I said, no, Bernard has to be my first guest. Also, before we get into it, I'm gonna have to do a shout out. Your cousin is the famous art chat Daddy Sims in Chicago, radio, TV personality. And I mean, it's a small world. I mean, he was so excited, that we knew each other. So I just wanted to give Art Sims a shout out. So, you ready?
Ready?
Okay,
Ready.
so if you can start, tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Barnard Sims. I'm from a small town in Georgia called Statham. We got one red light, but we coming up. And I've been a barber in town for over 30 36 years, nearly 4 decades. And just been an activist in the NAACP, vice president. Uh, Went to Athens Tech, was a instructor for a few years at Athens Tech, and I'm now just a retired barber, and I'm getting more into doing things like discovering my ancestors' grave from when I grew up, and that's how I reached out to you, and you've been a great help in helping me to unpack some of that ancestry.
Yes. So yeah, that was my next question. Because you reached out to me about helping you with the location of your ancestors. So can you talk about, if you know a little bit history of the cemetery, the name of it?
Yes, it's uh really I can talk about it a lot because my father-in-law was part of Eberhard and Son Mortuary, and so it's been a blessing to have him to go out on go ask, where are these people buried? Where did y'all bury these people at? And he was telling me about this. It's called the Slayton Moon Cemetery, and it's between Jefferson and Wyndon off of Highway 11. And I remember as a child going over there to visit the grave with my mom because her brother, who was killed by the police in October the 6th, 1963, they buried him out there in a pine box. And so we used to go out there from time to time and clean his grave. And we would go out there, and it was a whole bunch of graves out there, like the Russells, the Clarence Tanner. He's a World War I veteran. It's real nice, immaculate tombstones out there. Chandlers, former preachers, and but over the years, because my big daddy was buried out there, but he was buried at a time where they put him in a casket. And so we removed, my mother had him removed from there and put in a better location to be able to go visit. But this cemetery has been forgotten about all these years. And so with my cousin Denise who's from Chicago too, she did a lot of work in exploring and finding out about it and brought it back to our memory. And we got together and was going to go over there and find it. And when we went over there, the the family that owned the property, that was kind of funny about us going back on their property, but because of legal reasons they couldn't avoid us there, they sold the property. And from my understanding, they didn't really reveal to the new owners that there was a cemetery back there. So that's how we got to the point to where my cousin Denise and my cousin Eddie and I and a few others went over there to try to find it, and we couldn't because we didn't have access to it because it was fenced in. Like, I think your voice went out then. Your sound went out. I couldn't hear you.
Can people, you hear me?
Can y'all hear? It's a no. Okay, now I hear you.
Okay. You
I wasn't sure what you said.
Oh Lord, I'm having this.
Okay, I can hear you now. I missed it. I didn't hear what the question was.
Dorothy
George, I still can't hear. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Barnard.
We can hear you, but we can't hear her.
Oh, okay.
What's going on?
I can hear you now.
Okay, someone says my stuff keeps going out. Yeah, I am in a hotel in Savannah, Georgia. So
it's a lot of ghosts in Savannah.
So can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, but there's a lot of ghosts in Savannah, especially when we're trying to unearth our ancestors. Holy Ghost.
I heard about that. I was saying, hopefully you can hear me. Your relative, Dorothy Bright from Chicago, reached out to me.
Yes, I'm pretty sure she reached out to you because I told her I was going to be on your show.
Okay, I see her. She's a participant on here. So yeah, I had talked to her 2 weeks ago, and we're going to meet up because she wants to see more information about the cemetery.
Right.
Okay, so my next question is, the cemetery is on the property. Is that going to communicate with the owners, or what do you guys plan on doing?
My cousin Dorothy, you call her Dorothy, we call her Nisi. She reached out to the owner and she let him know that we have people that are buried out here. And the new owner is very cooperative. He was kind of upset that the other owner didn't disclose that there was a cemetery back there. And so, it's been a very productive in the sense of him allowing us the access to the cemetery. But the problem is it still got a fence around it, and we have a hard time getting to it. The like Mr. Booth Russell, whose whole family is out there, he's 96 years old, and without access to it, I mean, I there's no way I can get him back there through the woods the way that my cousin and I made it back there. So we're just now at the point to where we're trying to organize like some assistance, find out what kind of assistance there is out for us, especially since Clarence Tanner is a World War I veteran. And he's just buried out there in the middle of the woods like nothing. And so we've been reaching out to different entities, especially the military, in hopes that, hopefully we can gather some resources and some community interest in sort of like honoring our legacy. Because it can't just be 1 or 2 people out there moving all these sticks and brushes out the way. We all have to care about our ancestors, because if we don't, if we didn't have them, we wouldn't be here. That's why I hate to give you, I hate to keep telling you asking me questions, but I have to acknowledge what you do. And I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Sankofa, and how you honor our past and analyze how it affects our present, and hopefully help us to project a better future. And so I really admire your work and your book. I encourage everybody to purchase her book, Honoring Our Legacy.
Well, thank you so much. Can you talk about your ancestors that are arrested? Do you know the history of some of your ancestors that are buried there?
Yes, yes. Like I say, my uncle Joe Charles was my uncle, my mom's baby brother, youngest brother. He again was murdered by the police on October 6, 1963, and there was some, you know, some suspicious circumstances of which when he got killed. But back then, you know, the police didn't even get arrested. Sometimes they don't get arrested today for murdering black men, and so it was kind of just put in the ground back there. My great grandfather, who uh, Dorothy's great grandfather also, and my cousin Eddie is buried out there, Mr. Green Moon. Uh, and so when I went out there, there was a different connection because I didn't know any of these people. And I was the youngest one, but I'm thankful for them and sort of like connecting the dots to me to show me how these people, although they're out here in the woods and they don't look like they were important, my cousin Eddie told me that this was my grandfather, that when he came home, I used to go crawl on his chest and go to sleep when he'd be working out in the fields and take a nap. And then when they had to wait, you know, they moved the sofa out and brought the sofa, brought the casket in. You know, back in the day, they used to have to wait and bring you there. I don't know what was waiting on, but we used to keep the bodies in the house for a time period to have a wait. Well, everybody was looking for my cousin Ed, and he crawled on my great granddaddy's chest, and he was in the casket with him. So there's a connection, and it's a spiritual thing that we can't in our society, as we've been so Europeanized in our thinking that we disregard our past and our legacy and our ancestry. And we can't afford to do that in this day and time. Because again, according to the work you're doing, it helps us prepare and understand where we are and project us to a better future.
I'd like to do a share of some photos you sent me, and I was wondering if you can talk about some of them. Let me see.
That you me?
Yes.
Okay, that's Mr. Clarence Tanner. He's a private in the Army in World War I. And I had a hard time reading that, but it's March 28th, 1895. I mean,
Yeah.
that's World War I, and he fought for rights in this country that he didn't even have. And so now he's just out there in the middle of nowhere, just buried beside, you know, people, as you can see through these other slides. Some people didn't even have tombstones. So they're like rocks. People got what they had and sort of made tombstone. But they're like, if we honor the unknown soldier, I mean, we have a lot of people in our ancestry that sacrificed for rights that they didn't have in this nation, and they're unknown. And so that's why I think it's important that we start honoring our legacy as well.
Absolutely.
That whole path right there of bricks, I'm thinking that's the entire, I won't say the entire Russell family, but that's the guy I was talking about, Mr. Booth Russell. Everybody's fond of Mr. Booth Russell. He's 96 years old. He don't walk with no cane. He's an usher at the church. He works every day, and he couldn't go with me to the cemetery on this day. And I'm glad he couldn't, because I saw what we had to go through to get there, because he said he had to work. And so, but he told me his dad is out there. And my cousin Eddie pulled up one of the Eberhard and Son funeral labels, and we found Mr. Booth Russell's father. I think his name is Arthur Russell. And I think he said the whole family is buried in that slot.
Oh, okay. Right. And can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I was at a cemetery, I think I was in Florida, and I saw a cemetery. It was like right off when I was driving, it caught my attention, and I went back, and I saw a grave site of a man. I forgot, he was the gravekeeper for like maybe 40, 50 years. And on his on top, right next to his grave, is the actual rake that he used to maintain a cemetery. So every time I go to Florida, I always go to the cemetery, and every time I go there, that rake is still there.
Wow. Wow. The closest thing I seen to that is like, a bicycle where a little girl passed at my church of Fairfield, where they put the little girl's bicycle out there. But that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's gravekeeper, that's somebody that care, and we should care about them.
Absolutely.
That slide is my cousin Eddie. He's a Vietnam veteran.
Mhm.
And so I really wouldn't have felt comfortable out there in the woods like that in the rural South without him. But he is the one I was talking about who crawled on his granddaddy's chest and went to sleep at night. But also he was the one who, when we could not find our great grandfather's grave, he was the one who took his hands and got on the ground and started digging up stuff. Now, I watched a lot of horror movies. I almost left him out there. I didn't know what he was finna dig up, but I didn't know what he was digging. He was digging up bones and everything. And I was like, because there's a lot of places where there are depressions. When you go to a old grave site, I noticed that, the grave's sunken in because, again, some of us are buried in like those pine boxes and they deteriorate and they leave holes in the ground. But he actually took his hands and dug up and he was cleaning off a lot of that stuff. That tombstone right there is Mr. Chandler. He was like a prominent pastor in Jefferson, and him and his wife are buried out there. But they spent a lot of money on those tombstones. And I guess over time they got knocked over, but it's kind of hard to believe they were knocked over. And if some of the stuff, like where they're doing that construction around, I just don't know how that heavy of a thing get knocked over in the middle of the woods, but maybe it did.
Mhm.
But we have.
How many people are at rest there this cemetery?
I don't know exactly. I've heard speculations again from my father-in-law who worked at Eberhard, and I think he said maybe 50 or 60 out there that he sure of. But I've heard other people say they may be more than 150 to 200. So I really don't know, but just based off a general visual out there, it's a lot more than we thought when we first found it that we could remember. That's again some of it's graves all through there where people just took rocks and stuff that are just unkept and uncared for.
Do you know any acres? Do you know how big the cemetery is?
Between I think an acre and a half, or maybe 2 acres.
Okay.
Right, but that we know of, and that the owner of the property next door is saying that he will assist us. Since my cousin Dorothy kept bringing up, she done talked to an attorney. She kept telling me she done talked to an attorney, and I guess those people might not have rights when they were alive, but my cousin Dorothy is gonna make sure they have rights and the rights to rest. And so he said he was gonna get it fenced off for us, but still we need access to it to be able to get some of the people who can help us identify where people are out there.
It's been difficult trying to communicate with the owners to make that happen.
The owner, he is willing to help us, but I think the gate part is not really his property is like adjacent to where what would be perpendicular from the road, which would be an entryway. When my mother and them we used to go out there and clean it up, we had to go through this yard and then make a right and get to it. But if I don't know who owns the property where the gate is that would allow us, complete straight access to it. But that's something that Dorothy and I and Eddie and the rest of the family, we're trying to work on. But we feel like if we got the rest of the people in the community who know they have loved ones out there somewhere to help us out, it would lighten the load on us, because she's in Chicago and that's a long way to come down here to do our pick up limbs.
Yeah,
So,
the strength in numbers.
Yes. That's somebody's mother. Now, I was going to inquire you about that one. How did they put those little pebbles to put mother on there? Do you know about that process? Because I
No, I
didn't.
don't, but you know that we are creative.
Yeah,
We're innovative. We, come with unique things. So when I saw that, I was like, just like mesmerized on how did they do that?
yeah. I mean, it's tedious work that
Hmm.
somebody sit out there and took the care to to engrave that in there some kind of way.
And it's withstanding the test of time.
And yeah,
Don't know how long, this has been there, but it's still intact.
yes, yeah,
And there's another one.
yep. And that's a rose, and they drew a rose over there or
Yeah,
something.
it does. Yep. Okay, yes, I just want to share some of the pictures that you have submitted to me. They were awesome, beautiful pictures.
Yeah.
But besides with the owners, what has been the most challenging with the whole process?
The most challenging, I have to say, is the city of Wanda. Because that used to be a town in between Wanda and Jefferson, Holsenback. But since we had this new mayor, David Maynard, he's been, expanding the city limits and the township of Wanda. But when I reached out to him in particular, I didn't get a response. And even the city council members, and that's another thing I got to talk about. That's a problem in areas of the rural South. Is sometimes we operate and self-subordinate ourselves as second-class citizenship. And that's why the authorities in power think that it's okay to just bury the already buried out there in the wood and then just start building and developing around it, and people won't care. But I just want to make sure that they understand that I care, that Dorothy cares, and a lot more of us care. And once we all care, then we'll get a better response. But as of right now, the biggest obstacle is I reached out to a few of the city council members. Some of them look like us, and I ain't got a response on something this critical and important to us and our community. So that's been the biggest obstacle, I think, is because there's no way that this guy should have been able to sell a property with a graveyard on it without some of the safety measures that we have, like the city or the county or somebody letting him know that there are people's loved ones buried out there. But it happens every day. And behind my father's house, there's some tombs right behind his house in the woods, and people just building all around it because our lives didn't matter then, and they think that they don't matter now. But I honor the work that you're doing, because people like you confirming me that yes, they do. Yes, we do.
Yeah, because it's very important, that we make sure that our ancestors are resting in peace and dignity. Very important.
It is.
Right.
It is.
What are the restoration efforts that your family is doing or trying to do to restore?
What is the
Restoration?
what's the restoration? I guess, me and Eddie have been talking, and we were reaching out, and we're sure there's funding out there, but we don't really know which way to go right now. We just sounding an alarm saying help, but we really don't know, because this is my first project that I've been a part of. So it's a lot of the no's that I don't know yet, or who I need to talk to. But in what I know is a problem is a lot of doors that slam in our and marginalized people faces. And there's information out there. That's why, again, I thank you for the work that you're doing to give me a platform like yours and share it with me to add a voice to the voiceless. And so right now we're just in the process of trying to get access to it, and then trying to organize ourselves to get people to go out there and care about the ancestry. But again, the generation of people that's buried out there, many of us don't have a personal connection with them. That's why it's so hard to recruit help. But I always say the first line of defense is us organizing us, and then the city and the county and everybody else have to go along with it. We have to put public pressure on them. Power concedes nothing without pressure.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to someone that is trying to do what you're doing? Because often it's probably kind of stressful mentally, physically. What advice would you give to someone that's, trying to make sure their interests are real peace and dignity, and prevent, commercial development, or it's just being, like I said, our lives don't matter now, but they definitely don't matter, in life, and definitely don't matter in death. So what advice would you give?
I missed part of that. I'm sorry.
Also, I said, what advice would you give to someone that's trying to do what you're doing? I can, this is like a very, it's a difficult process because, like you said, you got people slamming doors in your face. What would you give advice to someone that's trying to do what you're doing, follow the path of what you're doing?
The main thing is don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main advice I give anybody who trying to do what, Black people have always had to do. We've always had to overcome obstacles. We've always been given the least, and we've always made the best of it. And so in this situation right here, of course, this is not the way I want to drive through the jungle with my mama to see her brother and her closest relative, closest in age sibling that she had. But, through that process, if she is willing to go out there with me and go out there, I can't give up on trying to get her better access to her brother and my great granddaddy, Green Moon. So the main thing is just don't give up. They're always, as Black people, they're always doors slamming in our faces, but our ancestors left us a window, and we have to chime into that and access that, because we're spiritual beings, and there are ways around it, but we just can't give up. I don't know what the answer is, but I know I won't give up.
Absolutely, that's great. Does anybody have any questions? Would like to say anything? Ms. Bryce, would you like to say something?
I can't hear you, Doctor. Can't hear
I just
you.
asked to unmute you. You sent a message?
Can you unmute her?
I can't hear.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you
Yes.
now.
Okay. I just wanted to congratulate my cousin for just laying it out as if I was speaking. I'm just finding something out because my great-grandfather, your great-grandfather, the same. We got the same great. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I did not learn all of this until June of last year. And I came to Georgia to vacate, but not to work. But the Lord had something different for me to do. So as soon as I got there, he gave me this assignment. And Lord, I did not want to go to no cemetery, hot as it was. But we did. And as we got there, because I wanted to see what the new highways was like, because they are building construction every little inch of Georgia's land, they are modernizing it. Every little inch, and now they out into the suburban area, what we used to call country. Well, anyway, there was a no trespassing sign there, and that's when I knew something was wrong. When I seen a no trespassing sign, so I had to investigate an address that was on a piece of wood, a stump or something out there on the highway, and that's how I found the people to start letting us on the property within a couple of days, and that's how it started. And so the only people that came was faithful Barnard and his mother, our Aunt Mary, and my brother. So we're the one that walked on to everything, initially but me, Eddie, and Barnard were the ones that was shown the grave site through Greg, the one of the owners of some of the property, and he was very helpful. I thank you, I thank you, I thank you. But I can say the very first thing to do is once you find some situations like that, you want to investigate. You know, I pulled up my grandfather's while I was there death certificate, and that's how I was able to go find all the information that I need. I'm hooked up with the Athens Funeral Home that buried a lot of them out there, so they're doing the archives for me. So I report to you on that because all of the family that's buried there, names is going to be on that list, cuz, okay? So yeah, we're working very hard. There are some hunters on the list. Some
I remember you telling me that, Dorothy.
Huh?
I remember you telling me about the hunters in that area.
Yes.
And I reflect back, and I know that I have some relatives that lives in the Jefferson area.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty interesting that you had found that information out.
And you live in Colorado.
Absolutely, yeah.
See how we all pulling together because it's just that serious? If we had not gone that day, that no trespassing sign, and ignored it, within a week, all of the land would have been demolished.
Yeah.
So we had just a week, less than 2 weeks to get on the ball. And with Barnard's help and then his influential family, which we all grew up together. So, you know, we pulled together the team and we got it started. So now we're on the ball. And I have so many names and everything of our ancestors, their siblings, their siblings. I have lists and lists and lists. I can go straight to the people now. And so your people buried out here. So that's our next job, okay?
And we thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank my cuz. I could have done it better.
We thank all of you guys. You know, I think you've done a superb job in doing your research. And, you know, I'm just thankful that you shared it with me. You know, that's something that's real precious, you know, is to understand about our ancestors.
And I did the whole social media. That's how we were able to connect. I put it out there over social media.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, since we made contact, Dorothy,
Mm-hmm.
I have found out that we have some cousins that are in common, you and I.
I know.
I didn't realize this, you know, until I put the two together.
Just like cuz, I just learned, you know, some information about our families through cuz just now speaking. And I had no idea that we had some kin, you know, it's coming together, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, so it's a great thing, you know.
Yes, yes.
Guys, keep it up, you know, keep it up. And I'm right there with you.
Barely.
Oh, here we go again.
I can't hear.
I did.
We can't hear you.
Hello?
I hear you now.
Okay, so this is ghost I guess, right?
Breaking out.
Keep breaking up.
Can you
Breaking
hear me?
up.
I can hear you.
Okay, so this is one I'm in Savannah, Georgia. The internet here is not good. So,
You breaking up.
So I know that I need to stay in Chicago when I do my interviews and stuff.
Okay.
No,
But can you talk about
that's
My
not
upcoming book. Oh yes. First, I think I have to say I'm just so glad that my cousin Dorothy didn't tell that I jumped the no trespassing fence. I'm so glad she didn't snitch on me, you know, because you know we don't know who listening.
The
other thing And the other thing is, it was like you asked me about the book, but just I appreciate her for not telling on me on that. And there was a spiritual connection out there because she has a beautiful singing voice, and that kind of connected me to what we were doing in unearthing earthing the graves. But my book is called The Southern Awakening. It's a Black man's guide to liberating the rural South. And I wish I had talked to you before I went through this process, because I know you know from dealing with your book that it's a tedious process, but the concept is based on the principle of my experience in being a barber in a small community for so many years. And of course, I don't agree with what Kanye West said, that slavery is a choice. Physical slavery, what happened to us, was not a choice. But in today's time, that the mental slavery, the mental acceptance of subordinate ourselves into second-class citizenship, I think the Southern Awakening is about us coming out of that. Because I'm not preaching to the people, I'm talking to me first. I'm Barnard at Barnard's Hair Salon, and I can be cutting somebody's hair, and one white man come in, and we start talking about something different than what we was talking about, or our volume goes down. And I had to say, what the heck am I whispering for? I'm Barnard. No, he need to know, because I'm doing a disservice to him too, because he goes back, white guy goes back to his church and to his community and thinks everything's okay because Bernard the Barber didn't say anything. So the Southern Awakening is a self-convicting thing about me speaking truth to power, and hopefully in rural pockets of oppressions like the community that I stay in, where it's the sunken place, where we accept these situations where our kids are underperforming in schools. And we accept that. We go back to our church and we sing glory, hallelujah, and we celebrate Martin Luther King birthday and have a ceremonial parade and happy birthday to Dr. King. But Dr. King did not participate in no parades like at Disney World. He was protesting something. And so what I'm saying is the Southern Awakening is us putting action to our activism. And instead of just sitting around in the barbershop talking tough, we need to apply that same energy to the street. And that's what my book is about. It's based off the premises of what Bob Marley said: emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. And the Southern Awakening is about guiding us to the true redemption of self-liberation.
Who was your publisher, Bernard?
Self-published through Archway Publishing, but I'm part of Black Writers Workspace. I think you are too, Tammy, right?
Yeah.
I think I saw you on there, but it's like for a person who's writing a book like me, with nobody to go to talk to ask this question, that question. I made a lot of mistakes along the way that I wish I had access to a place like Black Writers Workspace, which is on Facebook. It's just a community of writers because it's so important for us to share our stories. That's why, Tammy, I'm thinking about you and your book. It's so important for us to share our stories because she knows the African proverb says the story of the hunt always favors the hunter until the lion tells the truth. And we have to try to groom ourselves in being those lions and sharing our stories and, encouraging the next generation of writers to tell our truth. Because otherwise our stories end up out there in the grave and buried up under some trees and sticks and nobody cares. So we have to tell our stories.
Yep.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I hear you a little bit.
Okay. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Back to Friday, there's a showdown, and she's a cemetery hunter. So I will send out a link. I will be in Chicago, so I ended up recently. So I apologize for that. And I told in my book, Honoring the Legacy.
I couldn't hear you.
Your pre-order.
For your, I have not. Right now I'm in cover polish. So I'm approving my cover. They were trying to get it done before the weekend, but I didn't send the email back yet. But I definitely wanted to talk to you about that before I go to publishing. And when they send my book back, what should I look for, or formatting errors, because they sent me something saying, "Do you finalize?" And I'm like, I don't know if it's any formatting errors or not, so I'll call you. Because I need all the community help I can get. And I appreciate you for being that person to reach out and to a country town like this, even though you're in Savannah now.
So, thank you so much. Like I said, I'll be posting another interview I'll be doing next Friday with Michelle Jones. She is a cemetery hunter. So I'm looking forward to talking to her. And I'm here to help you all. So if you need any help, I'm always everywhere. I'm fine everywhere. So
Thank
any
you.
type of restoration, I can go get a volunteer or anything that, please let me know. And I'll be more than willing to help any way that I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tammy.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening.
All right. Bye,
Good
Tom.
evening.
All right. Bye.
All right, Barbara.
Bye.
Dorothy, we'll be in contact.
Barksdale. I know Fred. Oh my God.